All right, having a look at this next little one, and sorry, this little 9 has popped down here. It should be up here, so you can rewrite that in. Okay, so this is where our algebra comes in. Here we've got two linear factors, x minus 2 and x plus 9, and they both have odd powers, which tell us that they're going to the function will cut the x-axis at those points. So the x minus 2 factor tells us it's going to cut at x equals 2, and the x plus 9 factor tells us that it's going to cut at x equals -9. There's no denominator, so there's nothing that's going to cause the function to be undefined. So we draw our sign diagram and include our critical points, putting x on the axis, and we've got -9 and 2. If we expanded this out, it would be 3x squared, which is positive, which tells us that the function is going to be, the parabola is going to be an upward facing one, which tells us that it's going to be positive, negative, positive. If you're not sure, if you're not convinced of that, pick some easy values. So over in this region here, greater than 2, we would pick an easy value of, let's say, x equals 3, and then y is going to be 3 outside of 3 minus 2 is 1, and 3 plus 9 is 12, so it's going to be 36, which is positive. In the middle region, a really easy value to work with is 0, x equals 0, y equals 3 times 0 minus 2 is -2, and 0 plus 9 is 9, which is going to give us positive times positive times negative is going to be a negative answer. Okay, so we can confirm that it's going to be negative in the middle there. So if you're not sure of where, the graph actually sits, then you can just do some small tests in each of the region. In the last region, you would just use x equals -10 or something like that and confirm that that is actually going to be positive. If you've got your calculator with you, then you can draw the function, which I've done down here, and we can confirm that here are our critical points of -9 and 2, and indeed the function is positive, negative, positive. So we can confirm that. All right, last example. This time we've got a linear factor, x minus 2, which is squared, which tells us that it is going to touch the x-axis at x equals 2, and then that also tells us that there is going to be no sign change. So whatever the sign is to the left of x equals 2, it'll be the same on the right. X minus 5 tells us that it's going to cut at x equals 5, and that there is a sign change. And this time we've got a denominator, so the x minus 3 tells us that the function will be undefined at x equals 3. So they are our critical pieces of information in our sign diagram. Whoops. And so we mark them on. So we've got 2, 3, and 5. So, oops, here's 2, 3, and 5. The function touches at 2, so it gets a solid line. It touches at 5, so it gets a solid line, and it's undefined at 3, so it gets a dashed line. From here, we can do some small tests. So we let x equals 0. When x equals 0, y is going to be -2 squared times -5 on -3, which is 20 on 3, which is positive. Now, we know that there's no sign change at 2, so if it's positive here, it's also going to be positive here. We're not sure what happens on either side of the asymptote, so we'll do another test in this region here, And the most obvious choice is going to be x equals 4. And when x equals 4, y is going to be 2 squared times negative 1 on 1, just by substituting in 4, which is negative 4, which is negative. So that tells us that this region is going to be negative. We've already worked out up here that when x equals negative 5, there's going to be a sign change. So that means on the other side of 5, it's going to be positive. Now, you can do that without a calculator. And then what you can do is you can check. So if we have a look down here, I've graphed the function for you. If I can scroll down. And you can see that we've got these critical points. Here's 2, which gets a solid line. Here's 3, which gets a dashed line, and 5, which gets a solid line. And you can see that it's positive, positive, negative, positive, and so we've confirmed graphically. Okay, that's enough to get you going on exercise 3E.